Tiger fans, you're now tuned in to Tiger Rag Television, your source for the latest in LSU sports, in-depth game analysis, engaging interviews, and all things Tiger Nation. It's time to talk some LSU sports. Let's get ready for your Tiger Rag hosts, Jim Inkster, Chelsea Brumfield, Jeff Palermo, James Moran, and Tyler Nunez.
Welcome to Tiger Rag Television. I'm Chelsea Brumfield, and did you watch the game this past weekend? Because we sure did. We're talking about this game and a whole lot more as LSU heads into their bye week at the #1 spot. But first, this week's Crossfire debate. Jim Inkster joins us back in the studio to talk about an interesting one. Vanderbilt's been in the SEC Conference for over 80 years, but should they be? Jim, what are your thoughts on this upcoming debate?
Yeah, Vanderbilt's been playing football in the SEC since 1932. That's 88 years, no conference titles. I think it's 88 and out the gate for the Commodores. I believe that they should be replaced, perhaps by Tulane. The Greenies won 3 SEC titles before they left the conference more than 50 years ago. Glenn Guilbeau and I will talk about it in short order.
We also have Rudy Macklin joining us in studio and our weekly six-pack coming up right after this break.
Looking for fun in Baton Rouge? At Celebrity Theaters, you will experience the highest quality of family entertainment in the Baton Rouge area. Come experience luxury recliner seating in 10 auditoriums, including the 2 premium large format auditoriums with Dolby Atmos sound for every huge movie release. Plus, enjoy a full arcade. Celebrity Theaters is located at 15365 George O'Neill Road in Baton Rouge with locations in Broussard and Ruston, Louisiana. Tickets can be purchased in advance, and your next event can be scheduled at celebritytheaters.com. Come join us at Celebrity Theaters for family fun and create lifelong memories.
Hey everybody, this is Troy Lander. I'm standing here with my good friend Joey Doman. We had the newest car dealership in the greater Baton Rouge area. This is AJ Doman, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Come see my good friend at AJ Doman in Plaquemine, and when you do, tell him Shoot 'em sent you.
Hello, I'm Jim Inkster. This is Tiger Rag Television, and this is Crossfire. And this week's guest is Glenn Guilbeau, the incomparable writer for USA Today Network, columnist for Tiger Rag, and a man who knows the Southeastern Conference well. He attended not 1 but 2 SEC schools with a degree from the University of Missouri. Missouri joined the league along with Texas A&M in 2012. Now, I'm of the mind that the Southeastern Conference needs tweaking, and it has been tweaked. We remember when it was a 10-team league for many, many years, don't we, Glenn?
Yeah, and even then they didn't play everybody in the league. It's always had scheduling problems, I feel like, and it still does.
Yeah, I remember Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson both won the Heisman and neither played in Tiger Stadium.
LSU never played Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, and Peyton Manning.
How about that?
There's something wrong with scheduling if you do that. I remember when the SEC was 10 schools, Bo Schembechler used to make fun of the SEC for never playing everyone because it was an advantage in getting to the championship game, whereas Bo, they had to play all 7 every year when that was an 8-team league. So they need to fix that. I think they need to get rid of this permanent opponents and try to play everybody. LSU doesn't play at Missouri until 2022, I think, or maybe later than that, and they've been in the league since 2012. Missouri's been here, but LSU hasn't.
So do you
been
think the league should stay at 14 teams?
I wouldn't mind the league being at 14 teams, but I don't like the 14 they have. When they went to 12, that was a great idea, go to divisions, get the championship game, but the 2 additions I really didn't like. Arkansas was great for a while in basketball, and that was awesome.
Well, you're going back to 92.
Yeah, that extension.
In South Carolina.
Yeah, those weren't great additions. Arkansas didn't bring in a lot of TV sets. Now Texas A&M, that was a great addition because they're in the South, very close to Houston. That's very connected to the SEC. So that made sense. But Missouri, where I went to school, that is just not. They don't have anything in common with. Not that that's good or bad, but they don't have anything in common with the South. Missouri does not.
But People laugh about us in the South for not being as intelligent as people in other parts of the country, and now we've got our geography all wrong. We've got Missouri in the east, and Alabama and Auburn in the west, and last time I checked, that's all messed up. So I've got a way to settle this.
Okay.
Vanderbilt hasn't won an SEC football title in 88 tries. They're 0 for 88. It's time to tell the Commodores to take a hike.
Go to the Ivy League.
Well, maybe, or they would do well in a lot of places, but
Sure.
obviously they're overmatched in the SEC in football. Did very well in baseball, as we know.
Right.
So let's put Tulane in. Why Tulane? Tulane won 3 SEC football titles. They haven't been in the league since, 1965, but Glenn, did you know with those 3 SEC football titles, Tulane collectively has as many SEC football titles as 7 of the current members combined, half the league. South Carolina 0 for 28, Arkansas 0 for 28, Missouri 0 for 8, A&M 0 for 8, Vanderbilt 0 for 88, Kentucky's won 2, and Mississippi State won in 1949. So 7 of the teams in the league, the 7 members I just mentioned, collectively have as many titles as Tulane. It's time to bring the Greenies back, put them in the same division with LSU in the West, and then move Alabama and Auburn to the east and put Missouri where they should be in the west. And that way the geography would line up. And oh, by the way, LSU would have a much easier shot.
Oh, wow.
Winning the West.
Was that your secret agenda, Jim? Well, if Tulane would have been added in 92 when they had the other additions, or in 2012, they would be 0 for the SEC as well. I mean, back in the day, they were good and competitive.
Remember Sean
briefly.
King in 1998?
Yeah, they had a couple of years. I mean, they're comparable to Vanderbilt, I guess you could say.
I think they would be better if they were in the Southeastern Conference.
Maybe. I mean, being in that Southeastern Conference hadn't helped Vanderbilt or really Mississippi State.
Well, what I'm saying, though, Tulane was in the Southeastern Conference with Vanderbilt a long time ago, and Tulane was winning titles. Vanderbilt is 0 for 88. They've been in since 1932. I think at some point you got to give up the ghost, Glenn Guilbeau.
Well, I don't know if Tulane would be competitive if they got in, but it would, if you had to trade, that would make sense though, because you'd add a lot of televisions and markets in New Orleans. Of course, it'd be cross because LSU's already there. But if you had to get rid of Vanderbilt and replace him, Tulane would make sense. But I would rather them. Like, I didn't like when they brought in Arkansas and South Carolina. I thought it would have been better if they brought in Florida State. And really up the conference.
I think they tried to get Florida State, but Bobby Bowden, I recall him saying that he wanted to be in the ACC because he felt it would be an easier way to conference title, and that by virtue of that, he would have a better shot at the national title.
Right.
And look at Clemson. If Clemson had been playing in the SEC, would they have 2 national titles right now?
And look at LSU. If they were not in the SEC, they probably would have won the national championship in 2011 and 12 because they lost to Alabama both of those years.
Well, they still would have had to go through Alabama somewhere down the line.
Yeah, but they might have had a better chance of beating them if they hadn't already played them. But who knows? But the point is, when you're in that division with Alabama, it makes it a lot more difficult. So I can see where Florida State was thinking.
Wouldn't it be great if LSU and Tulane played every year as they once did? Why not?
No. Because it's no longer a good game.
Well,
and
but
just because it was a conference
Tulane
game
would be much better.
Well, we
if they
don't
were
know
in the
that.
Southeastern
We don't know that.
I think there's a good possibility that.
I mean, they're actually good now. They're pretty good now, but I don't. And it would make that a rivalry again if they had to play every year and if they got better. But I just don't know if they could get better.
But for those who say we don't want to play Tulane, we don't want to help them, we don't want them in the SEC, who would you rather play every year, Tulane or Auburn? Because if Auburn moved to the other division, then maybe they wouldn't be an annual foe.
Well, when the SEC has its meetings, they don't have a geography expert there, okay? They're not really that concerned with geography.
You're telling me some of these school presidents are not all that bright?
They're not interested in geography, and the Saints and the Atlanta Falcons were in the West for a long time in the NFL.
That is true.
That hasn't always made sense. But what I think they should do is they ought to have a probationary period. Like if Tennessee loses non-conference games like they did this year, they ought to be bumped from the SEC for like a year or two and put on
Georgia
probation.
are actually tied for second behind Alabama in number of titles.
Well, yeah,
Alabama 27.
But you're going too far history. No, it would be much better if you put a couple of schools on probation, not for cheating, just for losing. Wow. You know, like LSU would have been on probation in the 90s because they had 6 straight losing seasons. And LSU having 6 straight losing seasons in football is much worse than Vanderbilt having 20 straight because of the talent here. I would say that was the most embarrassing moment in SEC history.
But they got through it with Nick Saban when he was hired. They'd actually had 8 losing seasons in 11 years.
That's right.
But
and that's what Nick inherited.
And now they've had 28 win seasons in a row. So things are going rather well in Tiger Town right now. The number 1 LSU football Tigers are on their way a week from Saturday to face Alabama. We'll be talking about that and more next week, but we thank Glenn Guilbeau for stopping by this week for our Crossfire.
Welcome back. It's time for this week's Six Pack with Jeff Palermo.
Time for the Tiger Rag Six Pack, and joining me once again, Tiger Rag editor James Moran and assistant editor Tyler Nunez. The Tiger Rag Six Pack is 6 rapid-fire questions revolving around LSU sports. Today, since we're heading into a bye week, we'll sprinkle in some basketball and baseball, fall ball talk in it as well. But question number 1 for Tiger Rag Six Pack. Alabama's number 2, LSU is number 1 as we get ready for the November 9th clash between these two teams. Is the number 1 ranking for LSU extra motivation for Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide?
I mean, I'm sure it's something that Nick Saban will hammer on in practice this week, but if we're being honest, I mean, in a game like this, number 1 versus number 2, the SEC West hanging in the balance, a possible playoff berth, or at least the inside track to one hanging in the balance. This is the kind of game where if you need extra motivation, that would be a little weird to me. I think they probably have all the motivation they need, as does LSU. I mean, the game this big, I mean, you shouldn't need anything extra bulletin board material really to get up for it.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of bulletin board material, but overall this game speaks for itself. LSU, Alabama, number 1 versus number 2. Winner has an inside track to the college football playoff and the SEC championship game, and these are top two teams now, and both are looking forward to proving that they are the number 1 team in the country, especially Alabama. They've heard the whispers. They know that people don't respect their schedule, and I think that they're going to come out hungry looking for a win.
I would think any bulletin board material gets wiped away once kickoff happens Saturday afternoon in Tuscaloosa. All right, question number 2 for the Tiger Rag 6-pack. 27 penalties in the game against Auburn. Poor officiating, or how would you describe what we saw on Saturday in Tiger Stadium?
I'd call it weird officiating. I know that there were a lot of penalties, but there were also a lot of holding penalties or potential holding penalties that were left out there on the field. I know a lot of Auburn fans are mad because one of their best defensive linemen was getting tackled to the ground on multiple occasions with no flag to be seen. So definitely interesting officiating, but I think overall it was an interesting game. I think both teams were playing pretty chippy. Officials wanted to keep it in check, and that's just kind of how it played out.
I guess it's terrible officiating, but at the same time, it seems like whether or not you're talking about college or the NFL, most officiating these days is terrible. I mean, tons of flags, a disjointed game. I mean, a 23-20 game should not take 4 hours to play, and the officials seemed pretty bent and determined on making sure it took as long as humanly possible. I don't know if they get a cut of the CBS commercial revenue or what, but it just took forever, and it's wild to consider all the penalties that were thrown, and then you look back, and on any given play, you can see an LSU offensive lineman taking a Derek Brown or Marlon Davidson to the ground with something that looks like what you would see in a wrestling movie. Terrible. I mean, I thought it was pretty bad both ways. I don't think necessarily one team benefited more than the other, but also thought it was just kind of a sloppy game on a wet track, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast these days.
Well, as far as the length of the game goes, it doesn't help when you have a couple of fake injuries out there as well that we saw. Number 3 here for Tiger Rag 6-pack. Ed Orgeron, is he the coach of the year at this point in college football?
I'd say yes, but I would say you have to watch out for PJ Fleck at Minnesota. I mean, if the other kind of undefeated game on November 9th, if they beat Penn State and Minnesota is 8-9-0 and looking at a berth in the Big Ten championship game, then I think PJ Fleck could kind of sneak in there and take it away from him. But aside from that, I would say Ed Orgeron's a pretty compelling candidate if he gets this LSU team into the playoffs.
No disrespect to PJ Fleck whatsoever, done a great job up there in Minnesota, but to me it's hands down Ed Orgeron. He reinvigorated his offense, he reinvented his offense, and he's let both his offensive and defensive coordinators take this LSU team to the next level. Then all of a sudden they're the number 1 team in the country 2 years after everyone was wondering if he was even the right man for the job. He was LSU's second or third choice for this job, and he's turned LSU into a national contender.
All right, question number 4 for the Tiger Rag 6-pack, and Tyler covers basketball for Tiger Rag magazine, so this is going to be a hoops question. LSU is ranked in both of the major preseason polls. They tip off the season a week from Friday against Bowling Green. Biggest weakness on this LSU team, Tyler?
Will Wade won't look at it as a weakness, but they do have a significant lack of size that they had last season. Naz Reid and Kavell Bigby-Williams are gone. They're both playing at either the NBA or G League level right now, and they're going to try to spread the floor out. They're going to play a lot of motion, and that's what Will Wade's comfortable with. But looking at the way they rebounded last year, it was a huge advantage last year. It gave them a much larger margin for error. They were able to erase a lot of mistakes with the way they were able to rebound. They're the top rebounding team in the SEC, one of the top rebounding teams in the country. That's simply not going to be the case this season. They're going to have to be a much scrappier team. They're going to have to play much more risk-averse basketball to have the success that they had last year.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't replace the kind of size LSU lost after last year. They had arguably one of the biggest front courts in America with Naz Reid and Kavell Bigby-Williams and all those guys. They're going to be now kind of an undersized team, but honestly, if you've listened to what Will Wade's been saying, I think this is a roster he seems more comfortable with. It's more his style, I would say.
They're going to miss Tremont Waters. His shot-making ability is something that they're not going to get past as far as trying to replace that, that's going to be very difficult. All right, question number 5 for the Tiger Rag 6-pack. Baseball question for you, James. What has been the biggest development positively for the Tigers during fall ball?
You can go in one of two ways with this one. One, the pitchers are healthy. I mean, Cole Henry's looked great. Landon Marcel's looked great. Jaden Hill's progressing. I mean, even A.J. Levis, who has missed most of the last 2 years with various surgeries, not only is he healthy, but he's throwing the ball harder than he ever has before. If you remember back to his freshman year, he was pretty good, but his velocity was in the mid-80s because he was in pretty bad shape because of a back injury. He's healthy. He's throwing up over 90 now. He looks like a guy they can count on. Shifting over to the other side, the hitters, LSU might have found an outfielder or two from their bench players last year. I mean, Drew Bianco's been playing a lot of left field. He's been their best hitter this fall. Gavin Dugas played a lot of right field, and he's hit the ball very well as well. And both of those guys, while they weren't very good infielders, their athleticism has really played in the outfield. So the pitchers being healthy, a couple maybe developments in the outfield, guys that, if not starters, could definitely play a role. Those are the biggest things I've seen in some of the fall ball I've been able to get out and watch between football practice this fall.
Quickly, question number 6 for you guys. You brought up P.J. Fleck. Should game day go to that Minnesota-Penn State game like Minnesota is trying to petition ESPN to go to, or should game day go to Tuscaloosa for number 1 versus number 2?
I think it's going to be hard for them to keep it out of Tuscaloosa for that game. Not many opportunities you get for a number 1 versus number 2 matchup. Another game of the century. I got to say, I got to think they stick with Tuscaloosa.
I don't see why they wouldn't go to Minnesota. I mean, they've gone to a million LSU Alabama games, right? It seems like they're there every year. This game is not on their network. It's on CBS at 2:30. I just think the appeal of game day to me when it's really fun is when they go somewhere weird. Like last week I was watching in the morning and they went to North Dakota, South Dakota. That's kind of fun. Those people get really into it. I mean, LSU fans get really into it the first time, and then, I don't necessarily know how big of a crowd there would be in Tuscaloosa for LSU Alabama, even though it is, the biggest game of the college football season. I would say they should do something different and also, go to a game that's not on their chief rival, CVS, and go to the Minnesota-Penn State game.
That does it for the Tiger Rag 6-pack. More of Tiger Rag TV when we come back.
My mom.
My husband.
My mother and my sister.
My grandfather.
My mom.
My grandmother, my uncle, and my aunt had Alzheimer's.
Everyone has been touched by Alzheimer's. Do you know somebody in our community who is affected? Contact Alzheimer's Services for help.
I'm Ricky Hope of Advanced Welding School. I'm committed to investing in this community and its people. Advanced Welding School has a new program designed to cover the cost of your education, and you'll pay nothing until after we find you a job. There's no credit score needed. Call me today to schedule a consultation and to find out how you can get the education you deserve. Advanced Welding School, 667-9797, or online at advancedweldingschool.com.
I'm Jim Inkster, and thank you for being with us for Tiger Rag Television. A special treat this week for our interview segment. It's Durand Rudy Macklin, a great player at LSU back in the 1970s and early 80s. He led the team to the Final Four in the year of 1981. And the man sitting here is the leading rebounder in the history of Louisiana State University. It's not Shaquille O'Neal, it's not Bob Pettit, it's Rudy Macklin. And he's the number 2 scorer in the history of LSU. And the guy who's ahead of you is the leading scorer in the history of college basketball. So
he can have that one.
Pretty good career.
Yeah, it was very good. Coach Brown and I, we had a dream going in 1976 to build the Tiger program and to national prominence. And so our dreams were fulfilled. We missed the national championship by a couple of games, but we really accomplished some great things during our tenure.
Well, number 40 is a huge LSU football fan, and we're going to talk about that.
I know a little.
Football's kind of in the news right now. But so is basketball. And the coach, of course, last year didn't even get to finish the season. He's back. Is there a cloud over the program right now?
I don't think so. Not here in Tiger Town, but around the nation, people are still talking about it. Everywhere I travel, talking to other coaches, they still seem there's a cloud in the coaching circles, but here in Tiger Town, everybody's anxious to get the schedule going and the team going, and so I think I'll live it here.
Well, Rudy's at all the basketball games, but he's been head of the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness in Louisiana since 1992, 28 years.
Yes.
And he practices what he preaches. And for those who look at you now, they didn't know who you were, they probably would have thought you were a football player. You've kind of bulked up since you
when I took the job in 92, I kind of let myself go a little bit after playing the NBA, and I had a little gut. And so arthritis started to come up on me. And so I got with a friend of mine and said that light athletic weight training would alleviate the pain of my arthritis. And so I started lifting weights a little bit with my buddy over at Broadmoor High School, Rusty Price. And he got me going. And so we got having contests over there and challenges and betting on who can lift the most and all that kind of stuff. And so it kind of stuck with me. And so I continue to lift to this day. Even after my shoulder surgery, I came back, and back surgery, I came back and started back lifting. And so it keeps the arthritis away, that's for sure.
But that light training that you started with, it evolved.
Right.
And at one point, you were bench pressing over 400 pounds.
Oh, yeah, 430 pounds.
430?
Yeah. And so it was fun. It was fun, but I don't think I ever get that high again.
Well, we can all shoot for a goal, and 430 would have made you one of the strongest guys in the history of LSU football. Not many guys exceed 400 pounds.
Well, that's true. That's true. My body's built for it. My frame is built for it, and I stuck with it. And Coach Price had a pretty doggone good program over there. And so I stuck with it for a couple of years, and it did well.
But when you bench press, guys with long arms like you are at a disadvantage because you got to bring that bar up.
It's true. It's true. And I go with a closer grip, too. I like a closer grip.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah?
I do, yeah. And it served me well.
Well, we live in a state that's sedentary and has a lot of bad habits.
Yes.
And
yes.
As a people, we're not in very good shape.
We're not. When you have the highest obesity rate in the country, and women in particular have the highest obesity rate, and black women in Louisiana have the highest obesity rate, it makes my job even harder to go around the state to convince people and encourage them to eat better and to be physically active. And if we're going to reduce health disparities, if we're going to be a healthy state and reduce medical costs, healthcare costs, we're going to have to do something about being preventive. Prevention should be our main focus. We went from a prevention society to a treatment society. Now that we have Medicaid expansion and Obamacare, we seem to have gotten away from the preventive part that we need to have in this state. And that's what I'm charged with. And it's very difficult, especially in rural areas where they're underserved, they have food deserts, they really don't have good grocery stores. They rely on those small convenience stores where they cook, good, fried foods in the back, and all of that. And they don't have, nice parks and recreations facilities to have a good time with their families outdoors. And so that's something that we're trying to change. And in order to do that, we really have to put some meat in there and then put some dollars into prevention more than anything.
I checked the flip card of the LSU game against Auburn Saturday. LSU has 24 players above 285 pounds. and most of them could lose some weight, but they want them huge.
Right, right.
And some of these guys are freshmen, sophomores, and they weigh around 350 pounds. Is that healthy?
Well, it's, according to BMI charts, I'm still overweight, even though I'm muscular in some parts of my body. But for them, when they finish playing and they remain at that weight, it's going to be kind of tough for them. But for what they do, the 300-pounders always battling in the trenches. When I watch football, I watch the blocking schemes. I like to watch it from behind the field goal.
You actually watch the offensive linemen.
Oh, I watch the offensive linemen. I love that, man. I love the offensive linemen and the defensive line, and watch them go at it, because those are where the real battles are. An offense can't start unless those 5 guys up front win those one-on-one battles the majority of the time. And that's what I like to watch.
But having that girth helps. But it may not help their health long term.
Long term.
And we've seen this with some basketball players. It is shocking when you look at Shaquille when he first came here and look at him now. He was half the man then than he is now.
He still battles with it. He tries to stay in some shape, but he'll tell you he still battles with his weight. He has some trouble with it at times. And old guys I played against back in the day, they still battling with their weight. Except my best friend Dale Griffith, he and I, we kind of stay on the right path, but all the other guys I played with in the NBA and college, they seem to have a tough time, controlling their weight.
Well, as I stated, you're a huge LSU fan, and I remember first game this season, I saw you reported that you thought LSU had the best quarterback in the country, and I thought Rudy may be
I said that earlier.
A little overrating Joe Burrow, but now he's the favorite for the Heisman Trophy.
I saw something in that young man early on. I thought he was the best, and people thought I was crazy on Facebook. Oh, it's too early to tell, I'm saying, I see something in this young man. I'm telling you, he's going to be great, and don't be surprised if he don't battle for the Heisman. That was my words, and now look at him. So
this game in Tuscaloosa, it's for everything. It's for the division, the conference, perhaps the national title, and I don't think there's any doubt that the winner, the quarterback, will get the Heisman Trophy. So that's inordinate pressure.
It is.
How do athletes handle that?
Preparation. The better you prepare. Burrow, I understand he's a film watcher. He's going to watch his film. And the key to his success, like any great quarterback, like a Tom Brady or somebody, that offensive line is key. Alabama's defensive line has really dominated LSU's offensive line for the past few years. I think now this is going to change. I see our offensive line, they're meaner, they're dirtier, and I think they're going to control the Alabama defensive line. We have to protect our quarterback because we got some great wide receivers, man. These guys, they can catch the ball at any angle and no matter who's around them. They are great athletes, and so those guys up front, they're really going to have to protect the quarterback. And I'd like to see us even run the ball a little bit more, too.
I saw the other day that the 23 signees that LSU has coming in the next class, 15 of them are from out of state.
Right.
Coach O's taking some lessons from Dale Brown.
Yeah, well, there's great. Football is the sport, okay? Even though I'm a basketball guy, I like to watch the recruiting cycles and the networks when they talk about recruits. And it seems like LSU has a way of getting the right recruits, in the right positions when they come here. And they develop a reputation, like the Odell Beckhams and the Landrys, they talk DBU. Well, all the best DBs come here. And one time it was a running back U at one time. And so all the best running backs came. But now we got a system to where the best quarterbacks want to come. The best defensive linemen, offensive linemen want to come because LSU does a great job of investing in facilities. Our facilities are top notch in this country.
But
it makes a lot of
players want to come. When you came here, the arena was nice. It was relatively new, but there were no other frills.
No.
And you came when LSU, I think the preceding 2 years, had won 10 games and 12 games.
Right.
You could have gone to Louisville. You could have gone to Kentucky. Going to Kentucky in those days, and even now, is like going to play football at Alabama. Why LSU?
Well, my dad, he got fed up. He said, look, let's get this house back to normal, because after we played in the USA All-Star game, played very well, and then people come from everywhere, all other schools, and my dad said, look, let's narrow this down. And when Coach Brown had come to my high school, and I told him I was ready to narrow it down, and Denny Crum called and said, don't do anything until I get there. He was going to break me to see Muhammad Ali. Now, if Muhammad Ali would have told me to stay home Rudy Macklin would have been in Louisville. And so Coach Brown said, take me to where you learned how to play in that famous park called Shawnee Park. I played in that park in the All-Star Summer Leagues. In the 10th grade, I played in the Pro Division, myself and Darryl Griffith. And so I took him to the park. And on the way out of the parking lot of the school, I could see Denny Crum about to come in. And I said, well, Coach, maybe I need to tell Coach Crum I'll be right back. No, we're not going to stay long. We're going to come right back. It was the best recruiting move he ever made. And so I led him to the park, and I showed him around, and he said, Rudy, he said, those other big-time basketball schools recruiting you, they're going to do well whether you go there or not. He said, but if you come to LSU, you can always say you built something. And I mean, that just lit up my mind, and I'm like, wow, to build something. He said, I recruited some guys to be around you. He said, you're going to be my focal point. And he said, I want to run the ball this year. You know, I want to play good defense and run the ball, and I need you to come in and make an immediate impact. And we spent the next 2 hours, forgot about Denny Crum, talking about how we're going to play the game, how we're going to run our offense, and we mapped everything out, how this program was going to be. And it came true. My dream, his dream became my dream. And I always said I wanted to build something. And that's what I do.
It worked out well, and in his first game, Rudy Macklin scored, I don't know how many points, but you had 32 rebounds.
I think I like 16, 18 points.
Beat Tulane, and LSU had a rebounder with 32, and that record has not been eclipsed by anybody since. And it happened in 1976, 43 years ago. So it's turned out rather well for Durand Rudy Macklin, and we're going to return and spend some more time with number 40. We're going to hear more about then and now, and LSU's big game Saturday at Tuscaloosa at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We're back after this brief timeout. Welcome back to Tiger Rag Television. I'm Jim Inkster, and with me is Rudy Macklin, the leading rebounder and the second leading scorer in the history of Louisiana State University. He led LSU to its final season in the year of 1981, 17-1 in the Southeastern Conference, 26 games in a row. You go to the Final Four. Before we get to there, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Louisville, Kentucky, your hometown.
Yes.
You were 6 when he won the title over Sonny Liston.
Right.
He was like God in Louisville, wasn't he?
Man, he was huge. I was not allowed to ride my bike off the block. You know, we lived on 35th and Broadway, and Broadway leads to Shawnee Park. And so he would always get in his convertible Cadillac and go to Shawnee Park and park it. Everybody would crowd around him. He'd talk smack, you know, all the time, always rhyming and all that. And so me and my buddies, we'd sneak off the block and go down there just to hear him talk smack, to making sure none of my mom's friends saw us, because I got a spanking if I rode off the block, you know, I was 6, you know. And so, but that was the little glimpse I got of him then. And as I grew older, I became a fan. I cried myself to sleep when he lost to Joe Frazier. I think I was 8 at the time. And I've just always been an admirer, you know, somebody from my hometown. And then in my senior year, he called to ask, you know, did I have representation going into the NBA draft when the time come. He always looked out for the homeboys, and he looked out for me then. And I didn't know he had his eyes on all of us at the time. Yeah.
Well, you had a great career at LSU, first team All-American, and the records that team set have not been equaled. But as we know, it was a disappointing Final Four, and you got immersed in this controversy that was not of your doing, but you were in it. How much did that hurt you, both as a potential NBA player and also just hurt you as an individual?
Well, my first reaction, believe it or not, was to protect the school because the death threats by letters and phone calls that I received, and it got to be too much. And I didn't tell a lot of people. I didn't even tell Coach Brown until after I talked to Billy Reed, the Louisville Courier-Journal, to do the retraction when I went home for spring break. I didn't tell my best friend, Dale Griffith. But I just felt I had to protect the school and not give it all that kind of negative publicity around me. And so it really hurt. I couldn't answer my phone, and had those big gray postal sacks full of mail. And then when the letters started coming to my parents' home, that's when I started getting worried and scared. And that's when I called Billy Reed, and he said, I know what you're going through. And he wrote the retraction. It called APUPI, and it settled down after that. And still, you have people that resent, what I went through, and still blame me for it. And I found that out when Facebook came along, and the world got smaller.
Yeah.
And some people, still got on me about it, saying that I disrespected the President of the United States and all of that. And you can't explain to everybody what happened. You just got to let it go.
Did you keep those letters?
I kept some, and when I moved back to Baton Rouge, a couple of boxes got lost because I had so many awards when my parents died. I had so many boxes of awards, some of the boxes got lost, and those letters were in those boxes. I wanted to keep them as mementos, so to speak, because that first letter I opened was a boom, I'm like, oh man, this is something. And I kept that first one. And I had maybe about 10 or 12 or so, but when ESPN shot the documentary, I tore the house up looking for those boxes, and they got lost.
And for those unfamiliar, this was in Philadelphia, Final Four. President Reagan is shot on that Monday, March 30th, and that was the last time we had a consolation game between LSU and Virginia. It was a very close game. I think lost by 4 points to Virginia, which also had a Louisville guy in Jeff Lamb.
Yeah, my homeboy, and Lee Raker too.
And Lee Raker, isn't that something?
Yeah.
But anyway, you lose the game, and you were playing hurt too. There was no doubt that affected you in the Final Four. And, you're really in no mood to be talking with media, but there are microphones, and Reagan's been shot, and you get peppered with questions. And then you said something that was just an offhanded remark that turned into a life of its own.
Yeah, I've never run into, always got interviewed, but this is my first time experience a sports journalist that egged me on, and because I was young, 19, 20 years old. And I answered the question. He said, what do you mean? He's the President of the United States. He represents you. How could you say that? I said, well, if he was kin to me, I could see if it would affect my game. I said, but I had a game to play. That's what my focus was. I cannot believe that you didn't feel sorry for the president. Look, man, he's not kin to me, okay? And that's where he took it. Rudy Macklin said the president, not kin to him. He didn't care about him, that kind of stuff. He really got me. He did a number on me. He wanted a scoop, and he got one. And I just didn't know what was going to happen until I got back to Baton Rouge. And that's when it all exploded on me.
But all these years later, that still burns, doesn't it?
It burns. The entire Final Four experience, which was a bad one for me, every day I wake up, throughout the course of the day, I think about the Final Four game. Every single day.
Every day, at 61 years old.
61 years old. I still thought about it when I woke up this morning. That's how much it bothers me. Because I wasn't myself. And Bobby Knight, to his credit, he had a game plan he did something no other team had did to me in the tournament. Everybody would put a guy on me my height and try to match my quickness. And I averaged like maybe 28 points a game and maybe 15, 16 rebounds, something like that. And when he looked at the game film, and I got this from his coaches, one of his coaches, and he said, you know what, that Macklin, he's not going to leave that little 8-foot area. He does his most damage there. And plus a running team. And he said, let's put a bigger guy on him. And if he gets by that big guy,
then another big guy.
There's another big guy. So he put Landon Turner, 6'10", with a wingspan like, poof. And he had Ray Tolbert behind him. And if I got by him, there was Ray Tolbert. But I didn't know the athleticism of Landon Turner. He could run. At 6'10", he matched me, you know, and I'm a track guy, and he could run with me. And if I got past him, that was Ray Tolbert. And so he felt that if he could shut me down, the rest of the team would shut down. Because how I went is how the team went, and that was his philosophy.
Well, Joe Burrow's in a similar position as you. You know, he can feel it. He's about to win the national title, win the Heisman Trophy. It's there.
Right.
It's there. But as you know, sometimes it doesn't end right.
Right.
And how do you get past that if it doesn't end right?
I probably needed some counseling. I probably did. It was hard. I got drafted low. I was supposed to go first round, and I was supposed to be number 10 in the first round, and I got drafted low. Not mainly because of the game, it's because of the position I played. I played down low when I was 6'6", and so they didn't think I could play facing the hoop, and so I had to learn how to do that. And overcoming the Final Four and going in with this stigma attached to me of not being able to play and facing the hoop, I really wasn't sure what my life would be like. And then my best friend, Darryl Griffith, came to my house after the draft. I was going to just say, forget it, I'm going to graduate school. And he came to my house and said, come on, let's go. Time to get you ready. He got me ready.
It turned out okay.
All
Thank
right,
you,
my
Rudy
friend.
Macklin.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us for the interview segment. We're back with more Tiger Rag Television after this quick timeout.
My mom,
My husband,
my mother, and my sister.
My grandfather.
My mom.
My grandmother, my uncle, and my aunt had Alzheimer's.
Everyone has been touched by Alzheimer's. Do you know somebody in our community who is affected? Contact Alzheimer's Services for help.
Looking for superb living in Baton Rouge? Take a look at the charming community of the Elysian Apartments. The Elysian Apartments is delighted to offer 9 floor plans with 1, 2, and 3 bedroom options. Our spacious floor plans are comfortable and convenient. Explore all of our community amenities, including a business center, clubhouse, fitness center, and much more. Visit ElysiansBatonRouge.com for more information and see why the Elysian Apartments should be your new home.
I'm Ricky Hope of Advanced Welding School. I'm committed to investing in this community and its people. Advanced Welding School has a new program designed to cover the cost of your education, and you'll pay nothing until after we find you a job. There's no credit score needed. Call me today to schedule a consultation and to find out how you can get the education you deserve. Advanced Welding School, 667-9797, or online at advancedweldingschool.com.
It's prediction time with Jeff Palermo and James and Tyler.
Jeff Palermo back on Tiger Rag Television along with James Moran, Tiger Rag editor, and assistant editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Tyler Nunez. Let's take a look at the slate of games in the Southeastern Conference this Saturday. Of course, no LSU or Alabama playing, so there's not a lot of great matchups. But let's take a look at a couple of them. Ole Miss and Auburn. Auburn, a 17.5-point favorite. James, does Auburn bounce back after the loss in Tiger Stadium?
No, I like Ole Miss to cover this game, Jeff. I mean, Auburn, it's such a disheartening game. I mean, they had to feel like they were so close, especially, it can kind of splinter a team when a defense plays that well and the offense and the quarterback in particular let them down. I could see this kind of going sideways for Auburn here, and I think Ole Miss, I like them with the points, with Auburn coming off a really disappointing loss.
I'm going to go the opposite way. I think Auburn covers here. I think they're going to be angry after this game. I think Gus Malzahn, he's a veteran coach. He's going to get these guys together. And I think that Bo Nix is going to come into this game with something to prove. He had an awful performance against LSU, 15 for 35. That's not what you want. And he's had success against lesser defenses this year. I think he comes in, has a good game, and leads Auburn to a big victory.
Yeah, Auburn playing at home, maybe that settles down Bo Nix a little bit. All right, the other game we'll take a look at in the SEC West this week. Again, not a great matchup. You have Mississippi State and Arkansas. This is in the natural state. Bulldogs a 7.5-point favorite on the road.
I'm going with Mississippi State here. I think Arkansas is just awful. Mississippi State, they showed a lot of promise against LSU, and they didn't look too bad this past weekend either. I think Mississippi State is a growing team. I think they're going to get better. Moorhead's coaching for his job, and I think that this Mississippi State team is going to get a much-needed big win against Arkansas here.
Yeah, at this point, you couldn't pay me to take Arkansas, Jeff. I mean, I liked them last week. I thought they could be frisky, getting 5 touchdowns against an Alabama team missing Tua Tagovailoa, and lo and behold, Alabama was covering the spread by halftime. So I'm going to stay far away from Arkansas. I don't really like a ton of what I've seen from Mississippi State, but at least they're playing hard and seem like they, care a little bit. So I'll take them. I'll lay the points, and I'm going to continue. I'm just going to fade Arkansas any week you ask me from now on. That was really ugly last week.
I think we're done with picking Arkansas games, maybe except the time.
Yeah, when they play LSU, maybe. But besides that, we're done.
We're done with that. All right, Georgia, a 6-point favorite over Florida and Jacksonville. Tyler?
I think I'm going to go with Florida on this one. I think Florida's looked much better over the last few weeks. Tough loss against LSU. Defense wasn't quite there, but they bounced back last week with another big win, and I'm going to take Florida in this game. I think that they look much improved while Georgia has really kind of struggled over the last few weeks. Georgia beat Notre Dame, and it's been kind of a letdown since then. Kyle Trask in Florida coming off a bye week. I think they're going to come in, take it to Georgia, and win an unexpected game and kind of take the inside road to the SEC championship game.
All the makings are here for an ugly field goal kind of game, kind of like LSU and Auburn was last week. They're division rivals. They both know each other so well. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I mean, these teams seems like it's a slugfest every year, but I'm still going to go with Georgia. I mean, maybe I'm crazy here. I know that the quarterback has regressed. The team, the offense has really just looked bad of late, but I am banking on a bounce-back performance from Jake Fromm, and I like that Georgia defense a little bit more than that Florida defense, and I think DeAndre Swift, Jake Fromm, those guys have been in a million big games before, and I just think they make enough plays to cover that number, though I don't feel great about it. I will admit that, but I don't know. I like their championship pedigree a little bit more than Florida's at this point. I'll take the dogs, lay the points.
All right, got about a minute left here, so let's take a look at the Heisman odds. Joe Burrow is now 1. His odds are now 1-1 to win it all. So what do you do if you want to pick Joe Burrow here?
You do not bet Joe Burrow to win the Heisman at 1-1 odds. I know you love Joe Burrow if you're watching this TV show in all likelihood, but there's just no value there. I mean, you hear about the guy that bet him over the summer at 200-1. That's value. That's $50 to win $10,000. What you do if you really think Joe Burrow is going to win the Heisman is you bet LSU money line against Alabama. That will have better odds than 1-1. I would think it's going to be somewhere in the 2-1, maybe even upwards of 3-1 range. If you think he's going to win the Heisman, then you probably think he's going to beat Alabama. I don't really see how he gets there if they lose this game, especially if he gets outplayed by Tua in this game, who would be coming off an ankle injury. So if you really think Joe Burrow is going to win the Heisman, friendly advice, don't bet the 1-1 odds that has had all the value long since squeezed out of it. Bet LSU money line to win this game against Alabama, and they might as well hand the Heisman to whichever quarterback wins at the end of this game.
And that does it for our betting segment. Some good advice from Tyler Nunez and James Moran. More of Tiger Rag Television when we come back.
My mom.
My husband.
My mother and my sister.
My grandfather.
My mom.
My grandmother, my uncle, and my aunt had Alzheimer's.
Everyone has been touched by Alzheimer's. Do you know somebody in our community who is affected? Contact Alzheimer's Services for help.
Looking for superb living in Baton Rouge? Take a look at the charming community of the Elysian Apartments. The Elysian Apartments is delighted to offer 9 floor plans with 1, 2, and 3 bedroom options. Our spacious floor plans are comfortable and convenient. Explore all of our community amenities, including a business center, clubhouse, fitness center, and much more. Visit ElysiansBatonRouge.com for more information and see why the Elysian Apartments should be your new home.
I'm Ricky Hope of Advanced Welding School. I'm committed to investing in this community and its people. Advanced Welding School has a new program designed to cover the cost of your education, and you'll pay nothing until after we find you a job. There's no credit score needed. Call me today to schedule a consultation and to find out how you can get the education you deserve. Advanced Welding School, 667-9797, or online at advancedweldingschool.com.
Thank you for joining us at Tiger Rag Television. We will be here same time, same place next week. And this time we will be talking about the big one. Predictions going forward as LSU goes head-to-head with Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Will Joe Burrow pull off another great win? We certainly hope so. And we'll be discussing a whole lot more same time, same place, because after all, we are the Bible of LSU sports. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Chelsea Brumfield, and we'll see you again real soon.